Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Lauren here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Morten, and he's selling his display advertising, affiliate, and Amazon Associates business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, Morten. How are you doing today?
Thanks. It's all good. Thanks. I'm having my morning coffee as we speak.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to discussing your business in greater detail. But before we dive in, I'm going to go over a brief summary of the business for the listeners. As I mentioned before, this is a display advertising, affiliate, and Amazon Associates business. It's in the home, outdoors, and lifestyle niches and was created in September 2013. The average monthly revenue for the business is $25,757, and it makes an average of $25,448 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 56107 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So now let's go over what assets are included in the sale. We have a domain with all site content and files, one additional domain with all site content and files, contact details for the freelance writers, an article template SOP, as well as Pinterest, Twitter, and Instagram social media accounts. So now that we've had a general overview of the business, let's hear from the seller himself. Morten, can you tell us a little bit about your background in running and building online businesses?
Yeah, sure. I have a background like more than a decade ago from e-commerce. So I was in e-commerce for several years. And then we built out an SEO department, you can say. And I took that and ran with that and made it into my own company and started building my own portfolio of sites and basically just helping big businesses out with PR and how to sort of create content for the sites that news media would link to and mention and bring up. And then it made sense to me to start on my own portfolio. So that was around a decade ago. And then over years, I stumbled on display ads. Thought that's a pretty cool model because it's by far the most passive model I've come across, monetizing your blog and your website. So that's sort of how I got gradually into building a display ad sites, you can say.
Well, fantastic. It sounds like you've got a lot of experience behind you. How did you come up with the idea to start this business in particular?
It was my wife's idea, actually. We were just discussing if we were to start our own site, what should it be about? And she was studying architecture and was doing some interior design. And we thought, what a great niche to go into. And we thought we'd start a site around that. And so the idea was born.
Fantastic. It sounds really interesting. How does the business primarily make money?
Yeah, so it's primarily making money from display ads, what we can call premium ads from AdThrive. So one of the bigger ad networks and it's really just display ads and also a few video ads here and there. And then we sprinkle in a few affiliate links on the side. And that's something we can come back to because there's definitely some potential there because we've been focusing on content. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but you can see that in the sales listing, of course. But it's definitely mostly display ads it's monetized with.
Okay, perfect. Well, you've certainly had a lot of success with the business. You've grown it since 2013. Why are you selling it now?
Yeah, it really took off over the last couple of years, mainly just because we added a lot more content to it. I have other sites as well we've been focusing on. And we recently bought a house half a year ago. So we thought maybe it's time to cash out on part of our sites. Yeah, so I have a couple of other sites as well that I also like growing in there. I thought maybe it's a good time now to just take home some of that money and maybe put it into the house. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you've scaled the business really successfully over the years. Are there any methods or processes that come to mind that really help get this business off the ground?
Yeah, really going after content that nobody else had written before. So we've been scouting for articles and parts of the niche where we saw less competition. And that's been one of my strategies to really try and spend a lot of time figuring out what to write about and not just write about anything that comes to mind, but really be strategic about where we could sort of cover new ground, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Quality content will definitely put you a step ahead of the competition. Can you give us some insights about how you go about looking for those gaps in the market there?
Yeah, so there can be many things, but mostly we just look to Google, really, see what people are typing into Google with the Google autocomplete, and also what the people also ask. And we go to communities and forums around the niche and really just see what people are discussing and talking about, what makes them tick and what are they discussing, and then see if we could just offer better answers. So it's a ton of what you can call informational or educational content, really just answering people's questions around products and their everyday life around this niche without going too much into what exactly the niche is. Yeah, so that's been our main strategy, really just trying to help people and answer the question better or questions that nobody had answered before.
Yeah, I think that's a really good approach, going to the people directly and seeing exactly what they need and attending to that directly. On the flip side of the coin, when you're scaling a business, you're bound to encounter a few hiccups along the way. If you had to go back and start this business venture again, is there anything that you would do differently the second time around?
Yeah, for the first couple of years, we really just wrote articles about what we thought were cool. So that could be, anything really. A lot of what you can call more opinion pieces. And those didn't do nearly as well as the content we wrote later on when we focused more on the user and not what we wanted to tell and talk about. So that's definitely something that I'm doing differently today. Actually, a lot of these articles are not on the site anymore. They were written very early on and they didn't get any traffic. So they were deleted many years ago before the site really took off. But that's definitely something that we learned and something that I would do differently today. Much more focus on what people are looking for and not so much what I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. So where does the majority of the traffic come to your site from?
Yes, it's definitely coming from Google organic search. There's a tiny bit of Pinterest and a little bit of other social, just because people share the articles. But it's definitely built around organic Google search.
Fantastic. That's a powerful source of traffic there. Do you do any marketing at the moment?
No, we really just keep adding content to the site. We did do some bit of Pinterest at one point. It worked pretty well for a couple of years ago. It's still bringing in some traffic, and there's some pins that gets like really a lot of shares. Some took off, but I haven't found it to really be as effective compared to just spending all our money and time creating more content for the sites. So that's been the only strategy, really, just to focus on the content, and then the social media mentions and the links and everything just came naturally to the site.
Perfect, yeah. So if you were to keep the business, what are some of the major opportunities for growth that you would identify going forward?
Yeah, I would definitely go in and put a lot more affiliate links in the articles because we were just focusing on content. And also, as I said, been building other sites. And half a year ago, I bought a house. So there's been quite a lot on my plate. So I would say there's definitely opportunity to add like a lot more affiliate links to the site, really just going in to see where's the most traffic and how could angle some affiliate links into those articles. I think those are definitely the lowest hanging fruits.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a fantastic point there. So, Morten, can you walk me through the sort of work that you do as the owner of this business on a daily basis? How many hours do you spend per week on the business and what sort of tasks take up your time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked with your colleagues about this also when we were doing the listing, and I took a look at my schedule, and I think it's about an hour per week. That might sound very surprisingly low, but I have outsourced all the content. So I have writers for the site who really know what they are talking about, because some of the stuff on the site is you would prefer to have somebody write about that with experience in the field that I don't necessarily have myself. So I've really mostly been overseeing things and also adding some affiliate links and just making sure that everything was running smoothly. And then I had an editor. Up until a couple of years ago, that was myself, just editing everything from the writers, but I've been using an editor also to do it. So it really just took an hour of my own time. And you can say outside myself, it's been this editor and then the team of writers really just pushing out content on a monthly basis.
Wow, that's great. That sounds like a very streamlined process you've got there. How many articles do you add to the site on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think there's definitely between 15 and 30 articles per month. So sometimes there'll be a month where, a writer is on vacation or whatever, and then it'll be lower. But I think between those numbers on a monthly basis. And I can add to that the articles are pretty linked. I think on average, they are at least 1,500 words. Many are longer than that. So we try to really, really cover even every small detail in very great depth. So it shouldn't be taken over by the competition anytime soon.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like a well-oiled machine. So you've obviously got a lot of experience in the online world and you've got a team working for you. What skills or requirements would you say that someone who's not familiar with this niche or business model would need in order to successfully run the business?
Yeah, I think you really just need to be able to work with external writers and find good writers who know what they're talking about. Because as I said, I don't know much about what we are writing about on the site. I've consulted with people who know about the niche and who have knowledge, and I've found writers are very engaged with the niches themselves. So I think that's definitely key, to find writers and be able to manage a team of writers. It's probably less than a handful. It can really just be one writer half time if anybody wants to do it like that. I've had a few more who just wrote a few articles per week. I've gone much more after experience and competence. And sometimes that meant that they could only write one article or two articles per week. So I had a few more writers than I probably had to. That's the skill you need. You need to be able to work with a small team of writers on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, I mean, quality comes first. So that might delay process time a little bit.
Yeah, and that's also why sometimes there would be less content a month, because I wanted these writers to write it and not just outsource it to any content bureau or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely contributed to the success of your business. What do you think some of the biggest risks with this business are that a buyer should be aware of?
That's a good question. I guess being in the Google environment, maybe that could be something, though this site hasn't really been affected by Google updates. I don't see any major risk because we built the site, can you say, organically. We didn't do link building or any shady SEO tactics like that. We really just focused on the content. So it should be built exactly like Google wants us to build sites. Yeah, it sounds a little weird because I'm the seller and I can't see any things. Nothing really comes to mind like a big threat, because the niche itself is definitely evergreen. It's not something that's going away. It's definitely riding on a mega trend that will just continue. I think everybody would agree when they see the niche that it's not going anywhere. Maybe other competitors, but then again, it's domain authority 53 with Moz, so it's definitely ahead of anybody's trying to start out. Yeah, I don't see any major pitfalls for the site.
It sounds like the business has a very strong foundation. So I think that'll be very reassuring for a lot of the buyers.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So navigating any risks would obviously be a concern for the buyer. How much support are you willing to offer the buyers to help ease the transition of the sale?
I want to be available and make sure that it's a smooth transition. And I'm definitely open to help us as much as is needed. So we could look at something like a month, several Skype calls. We could set up a chat or email or whatever is needed. I want to be as helpful as I can.
Fantastic. And would you be willing to commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yeah, I can do that. I think there are plenty of niches. And as I said, I'm in a few other big niches myself already. So we can do that. That's something we can sit down and discuss specifically how long and how to really cut it out and be specific about what we can do and can't do.
Perfect. And are you open to negotiating something like an earn-out when it comes time to actually negotiate the sale?
Yeah, if we have to. But my wife and I have talked about it, and we would definitely prefer all cash deal. I suppose everybody would say that. And this is a new thing to me. I haven't sold like $1 million business before. I've sold smaller sites where it doesn't really make sense to have an earn-out. So it's also a learning experience for me. We would definitely go after an all cash deal if that's possible. But otherwise, we'll be open to see what kind of structure we could get.
Yeah, that's fair. And what advice would you give to our listeners that you wish you knew when you started out this business?
Yeah, so I touched on this a little bit already, so I'll make this first one very brief, but definitely focus on the end user and what people are actually asking on Google and forums and online, and try to answer their questions rather than just rambling off about your own opinions and what you want to write about, which might not be what they're looking for. So that's definitely one thing. Yeah, what else? I think really just sticking to one site, and not create too many sites, but take one site to maturity. I think that's been such a fun experience to see something really grow beyond what I thought was possible with the blog.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. So you have a history in e-commerce and now you're in content sites and display advertising. Why would you say that display advertising is a great model for those who are interested in starting their own online businesses?
Yeah, so as you said, I started out in e-commerce. I've still been consulting e-commerce, like large e-commerce stores on the side. until a couple of years ago. And I could just see e-commerce sites spending more and more of the budget on advertising. So the advertising budget just grew and grew and grew, and you had to pay more and more to Google and ads and whatnot, Facebook, just the whole bringing in traffic to your site part of the business. I've thought, okay, that part is definitely thriving and growing in this industry. And it was just so hard to make any money, any real money from a smaller e-commerce site at least. So I figured I want to move myself from the e-commerce environment to the advertising part of the layer, you can say. And in there, I would say that the display ad model is just very, very awesome, because with a site like this with so much content, so it's more than 1,000 articles, it's pretty hard to keep up with all the affiliate links, update them, see when something runs out of stock, maybe there's a better alternative. So from my experience, the affiliate earnings will always decline over time, while the earnings from display ads is just growing, and you don't have to keep watch over it. There will always be another advertiser ready to bid on your site if one leaves. And really just year over year, I could see the last many years I've been following this. We just make more money from the same amount of traffic, which is the opposite as affiliate links, which you need to keep watch over. So that's why I think it's so lucrative. It's just very, very passive, and it's definitely growing. We see more budgets from major companies being moved from offline to digital. And the huge chunk of that is what we see in these display ads.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. It sounds like display ads, you think they're a lot more evergreen than e-commerce and affiliate links.
Yeah, so as long as you have the traffic to the site, I mean, there will always be advertisers, and they're just willing to bid more and more. And that's a very interesting tendency, I think.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So Morten, the last question, if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
Yeah, so I would definitely say that the best things I can say about this business is that the niche is definitely evergreen, riding on a mega trend that will continue to grow over the next couple of decades. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I don't really see any risk with it, because it's built around principles that Google teaches to do, like just focus on the content and the links will come organically. So I didn't go out and shoot a whole lot of links or do link campaigns or PBNs or anything like that. So I think it's clean as a site can be, and has some fantastic links from major news sites and stuff. So I would think it's the last site in line. If there were any algorithmic updates, I can't see that happen. So I also mean, like, buying a business of this side, that would obviously be something that I would look at, like, how vulnerable is it from a Google standpoint, since it's getting all the traffic from Google, right?
Yeah, definitely. It certainly sounds like a solid business, and our listeners should definitely check it out on our marketplace. Morten, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners that I might have missed?
I think you covered it well. Those are some really good questions. Made me think about a lot of things. Yeah, I think we're good.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show. It's been great talking to you.
Sure, thanks.
All right, everyone, thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 56107. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.